heads down, thumbs up your... There are practically 2 months left in 2025. Before the end of this month, I guarantee you will have at least one, if not multiple people putting out their top 10 games of 2025, because first is the best and second is the rest. Because that's what it is. Because you don't play games at the end of the year that come out, because those don't qualify. However, sarcasm and cynicism aside, though, these are my picks right now. The Liege predicted 30 games that are going to be on these lists. These are the games that people are going to have on their list. So if you're wondering where people's heads are going to be at right now, currently, the ones that you can anticipate, I'm going to predict all of them. Asterisks. Let's go. Games of the freaking year. And this is spanning all categories, all mechanics, all themes, all types. So this is not just my personal take. This is looking across the board saying, what is making waves? What are people really freaking enjoying? So let's start out with the obvious, the most obvious contenders. And I'm going to make the argument that this is potentially going to be a very heavy Game of the Year category in the terms of the cooperative sense. Fate of the Fellowship is absolutely going to be skyrocketing in the top 100 games in less than 6 months. And so that is by far and away going to be up there, which is crazy that you have potentially 2 Lord of the Ring games going back-to-back years as number 1 games for many a people, or overarchingly. The most telling sign of this game right now currently for me is not that it's this hot, not that it's being this well rated, but there are hardly any copies on the secondary market. And that is the test of a truly, truly wonderful game that no matter who is getting it right now, from a cooperative pandemic put out the fire sense, for 1 to 4 players with your choice of your favorite ring-bearing folks, that is awesome from that aspect of things. We'll just stay with that before I go to the actual other Game of the Year contender in the same sense, but with Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking almost being forgotten as an early 2025 release, yeah, you know what? The 6 people that had it on the content creation side of things before 2025 started, and why it got included on the Board Game Geek list for 2024, is kind of a big middle finger to the rest of us Joe Schmoes who really can't get it then. Sort of like Veil of Eternity. Like, people are going to be talking about Veil of Eternity Curse for the 36 people that got it at Essen and the 3 content creators that got it before 2025 ended. But otherwise, the rest of us can't even get it until February 2026. So just like that, this is a 2025 game, and it's going to be on people's lists. Then, we're staying with the cooperative, Eternal Decks. This is the other contender. This is going to be hamstrung, though, because contrary to those other 2 being thrown at people left and right in the availability, especially on the content creator side of things, that is one of the number 1 categories of what makes a list. Because how many review copies were sent out for Eternal Decks? I'll wait for your answer here. How many? Probably 1 or 2. But I'll make the argument that this rivals any cooperative game that I've played in the last 5 years. So this is going to be on my top 10 list. I guarantee it right now at this point. But I also guarantee it's probably not going to be on a lot of other lists, which is unfortunate because, well, as I was just told in the comment section of one of my Board Game Geek blog posts, because I cross-post my videos on my Board Game Geek blog, which has 200 subscribers. I laugh because that's, a small amount. Anyway, I was told that crowdfunding is a complete and utter scam. And, this was a crowdfunded game. So it's a complete scam. And no one backs crowdfunding, especially on the content. Oh, not going to get into that. Okay. Then the other cooperative game that you at least have to have on your radar, as this is going to make waves, but it's also going to be divisive. I put out my review earlier this year of Peak Team. Again, a 1 to 4 player, completely randomized quest-based, limited communication, pass your cards to other people so that they can trek along random paths to pick up random tokens to get in a random order with different modularities in terms of laying the cards down in order to capture the animals and going to bases in order to get more quests and divvy them out between characters. It's going to be divisive, but it's also potentially that good as well. The other cooperative games, if we're just going to stay with this theme right now, Marvel Dice Throne, the X-Men and X-Men Missions, we'll go halvesies on this one. But again, this is like Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking. It was in the first months of 2025. So this hobby as a what have you done for me lately? Well, last year they didn't actually disappoint because people have still remembered Slay the Spire and Harmonies. But with these two, I could see it going either way, and this is from the mission side of things, which I'm still mixed about. The cooperative side of things with the X-Men, which again, I'm mixed about. So we'll leave that alone. Then, Grimcoven, and we'll go just throw these together. Aeon, Trespass, Odyssey, Cycles 4 and 5. If it's your thing, it's your thing. If it's your thing, it's your thing. And Aeon, Trespass, Odyssey was my game of the year when it came out to backers. And Cycles 4 and 5 are just frickin' massive mothers. And so for me to delve back into there, it's a massive undertaking to reacquaint and restore and reinvigorate. I'm not saying I'm not doing it, but it's frickin' sweet. And then, we also have Kingdoms Forlorn, which is in there as well, which is just a whole nother freaking massive amount of content from the same folks. And these can't be underrated, but it's either your thing or it's not going to be on your radar whatsoever. This is not going to be a omni-gamer type of game, and neither is Grimcoven for that matter. This is taking a different spin on the more boss battler rather than the dynamic campaign overarching scenarios and linking together in that sense. It's taking more of a direct approach in a more complex townfolk tussle battling style as you not only deal with bosses, minions, and quests, but the upgrades that you are so in love with in combination with the phantasmic, that's the combination of fantastic and orgasmic Awakened Realms art that always attracts the eyes. It's going to be on a short list if it's your thing. The other one that is lower on people's radar but is worth talking about was actually Ivy Studios' non-crowdfunded games in the form of Time to Panic, which is a tableau limited communication numbers manipulation with weird asymmetric powers. Again, if this is your vibe of the limited communication, the game is too easy style of things, and Take Time, the other cooperative game that's on this list as well, is not for you. They're too easy because all you're just doing is laying down numbers. This is probably the hardest game in terms of complexity without rules overhead, at least ratio-wise, on this whole list. I kid you not. I kid you not that this is probably the hardest game to win in this whole list. And if you like my type of games, this one should be on your radar because I guarantee you didn't watch my review of it earlier this year. But that is the majority of the cooperative games. December, January from last year of Marvel United Multiverse. Ooh, I love Marvel United. But can you make a successor well suited for another game of the year? Or does this all get lumped under Marvel United still? How do you feel about that? Which, contrary, in the next game that we're talking about, how do you feel subsequently about Nemesis and Nemesis Retaliation? Nemesis is separate from Retaliation, is separate from the sequel. But do we categorize these differently when it comes to Marvel Uniteds? And so I think it's worthwhile. We also have the DC Superhero United, the Batman Rush expansion standalone, which is now apparently, at the time of me filming this, on my way to me, because I ordered it off of Amazon because it's going through Spin Master and not the CMON Cluster F that's going on the crowdfunding side of things, because it was a separate to retail thing, not even included in the all-in. People are loving on that as well, which just goes to show that apparently they've continued the excellence on the DC side of things, which was the fear that it was not just a cash grab, it was a cash grab in a good way. But that's a lot of cooperative games already in terms of things this year. Then we start getting to the head-to-head games. And again, this spans all mechanisms, it spans all types, and it spans all weights. Let's just go straight down my list in terms of what I've got in store for us. So first up, we're just going to go to Hot Streak. We're going to go to the Dumb Games of the Year. We're going to go to the Dumb Games of the Year here, and this is the Hot Streak Magical Athlete Star Wars Super Teams Vibe umbrella, in the sense that now we have taken the pendulum and gone full swing from the Galactic Cruise, which is going to show up a minute on this list as well, of the I can't make it any more complex, I can't get the rule book to be any thicker, otherwise the box lid will be going this much above the box in the first place, and we are going to play dumb fun. We are going to just have complete and utter chaos and no clue of what whimsy is going to befall our fate on the board, in the form of either betting on the racers themselves or controlling the racers with a random dice with random powers that are randomly going to screw each other and create just the most delicious experiences and combo craziness that you've ever seen in this vibe of things. And sort of like a 16-bit on the video game side of things is now all the rage in a retro manner, that graphics is not the end-all be-all now all of a sudden in video games. Yes, you have your people shouting for 60 FPS on every single game, no matter what it is, doesn't matter what it's for, even if they're playing Pong. This is now the equivalent of that, saying, you know what? Middle finger to the complexity. We just want to have fun. Girls, just... Anyway, so that is what it's got going on. And truth be told, Magical Athlete is an absolute smashing success and hit with everyone that plays it. The last dumb fun one, though, that we have to talk about is one that you can't buy in North America. That is the biggest sleeper hit of Essen that you will never hear about, as well as one that I talked about earlier on the channel that I imported prior to Essen because Cardboard East, screw you for getting me interested in this and causing me to import it and spend that much money. It's freaking Tornado Rush. It's jet skis. It's meeples on freaking jet skis, where you have a jet ski course, you lay down the cards and you turn and you have to be the first one to the end. And again, it's just a dumb, fun style of game that works. And it shouldn't work. And it does. So that is just that category of things. Now, everything else umbrella. Mechanically complex, mechanically excellent. But... is it your vibe? Are you having fun with it? Category ? And let's talk about Galactic Cruise, because that is the Lacerda of non-Lacerdas. Everybody loves it, sort of. I think it's going to be the heavy gamers game of the year, like Andromeda's Edge was last year. I think this is that same vibe, that same Venn diagram, that same interest group has this one chomping at the bit, salivating all over it like Pavlov's dog. The only other ones that I can see contending from that weight right now, again, this is outside of my jurisdiction as much because this is not my area of interest nearly as much as other channels. I've heard good things so far on Recall and Feya's Swamp post Essen. And so those are the other ones from the creator of Revive, and now giving us a completely different vibe in the same vibe as well, in the form of Recall and the unlocking campaign worker placement Euro style of things, building your civilization up, simultaneously managing your swamp and unlocking the mysticism that is within it in a worker placement vibe of Feya's Swamp. That's going to be the heavy side of things. The only one for me that I think could be spanning that is behind me in the form of White Castle Duel, which again I feel is a little divisive. It's definitely one of the more brain-burny, crunchy style of things, mashing your teeth crunchy style if nothing else. But it's a two-player game of a game that already plays really well at two-player. The argument for it is that it plays completely differently, mechanically speaking, than the other version in the first place. It's not a reskin. It's more than, just the imagining of this at a two-player count that was unnecessary. It's more like a Splendor Duel. But it is a little bit overly wrought with the randomization of some of these tokens that you may have to deal with, so it may not be a pure Euro lover's wet dream in the first place. But it's probably among, if not the best, of the two-player duelish versions that have come out this year. Similarly, but slightly lighter, we have in line with that Wroth from Ivy Studios' deluxe compatriot, Chip Theory. Because Wroth is taking the approach of, you know what, screw it, let's have some random asymmetry fun and just do a war game with an area control style vibe and just let things smash in under an hour. So I think it appeals to a much wider audience, but because the mechanistic approach isn't as nuanced or neatly detailed out, I don't think it's going to get as wide of acclaim overall, but it's still going to be on people's lists because of those accessibility reasons that many other games with the levels of asymmetry that it includes are twice as long and twice as heavy in terms of rule books, so that can't be understated. The other mechanistic one that is going to be really interesting to see how people like is General Order Sengoku Jidai from Osprey in the form of a head-to-head two-player war game in one of the smallest, tightest boxes that you have ever seen, without lacking the tactical symmetric options that are going to be available to you with a small hex-based grid with multi-action purpose, while worker placement leaders to outmaneuver your opponent, because it at its heart is still going to be the better person winning in this game, even though there is some slight nuance to what you're doing as well. And these next two, again, could not be more diametrically opposed in mechanisms on the table. But I have to give a ton of extra kudos if you can crowdfund a project, be one of my most anticipated of the year, as well as fulfill in less than a year, within the same calendar year. And so on one side of things, we have the MOBA, the potentially best MOBA, most accessible. Best being in quotes, because Guards of Atlantis 2 has set a super high standard. But Onward from Skytier Games also is giving me sort of an upgraded version of Battle of Paternia, which I'm still looking for the expansion for and can't find anywhere. But it's giving us this in just the Guards of Atlantis 2 asymmetric, but the accessibility of Battle for Paternia. And that is frickin' sweet. Yeah, your boy got the standee version because, you know, I buy the standee versions of things. Although I wish I kind of would have gotten the upgraded tokens now. The tokens are a little bit chintzy, especially with the heroes, and so that's a detriment. But it's MOBA lane battling with asymmetric powers, knock them out, knock them over, and win. It's pretty freaking cool. And then on the opposite side of things, and I've heard you guys in the comment section clamoring, YOMI 2. Again, a reimplementation of the original YOMI, second edition, and then YOMI 2. Asymmetric head-to-head, poker-esque style fighters, not as perfect information as a BattleCon, not as explosive as Exceed, but again, head-to-head battling done first on the console side of things, and then just produced on the tabletop side of things, which is fantastic as well, and both of these are going to be on my short list potentially in addition. Then the others that we have to talk about that are a little bit under the radar, do you remember still that Santorini, the Pantheon edition, the new edition, came out this year? And that straddles both the competitive and the cooperative side of things. And I guess, again, similar to the Marvel Uniteds and the Nemesis that we talked about, does this warrant Game of the Year discussion? Does this warrant separate? And my answer with all of these is unastoundingly yes. But will it be good enough, and will people remember, again, as a beginning of the year side of things, at the end of the year, with an asymmetric, power-driven, cooperative, now competitive head-to-head, as still one of the most fun abstracts, one of the most frustrating at the same time. Speaking of a little bit of an abstract vibe, though, we're going in a different direction with the tile-laying sequence of things. And this is from Bad Comet, which has knocked it out of the park in the last couple years with Life of Amazonia, as well as Wonderful Creatures. And this is a follow-up in the animal vibe of Shallow Sea, the combo-driven sea life meets reef style tile laying that I wanted diatoms to be more of in this way. And so with the creature aesthetic, the abstract nature, and the thematic incorporation, it's going to be on a short list as well, but this is going to suffer like several other games on this list in addition, is that wide availability is going to be the question. Because again, if it's not in people's hands like myself, it doesn't show up on the lists. And so that is always the conundrum. How many of these games that you would put on the list that you just haven't played. Similarly, from a tactical and strategic, but overarchingly much easier to hit to the table and much more of an IP grab in Star Wars Battle of Hoth. It is a reskin. It is a good reskin. It is an accessible reskin in the form of Memoir 44. You take either the side of the evil rebellion or the tragically underrated Empire and see who can battle over random Hoth scenarios. That's probably the biggest detriment that I can make, is that, again, 10 different battles on Hoth, it's kind of boring. But the layered mechanisms that they give over a successive scenario in terms of increasing the difficulty and the ease of access makes it available, tied in with the Star Wars IP, to give, well, Star Wars junkies the game that they've been trying to get for years in this light. It's not going to be, though, everyone's Star Wars game. This is not the game you are looking for at the same time, because it's also too light for a lot of wargamers, for a lot of skirmish style, because it is still solely dice-driven randomization with some tactical strategery. But it is more an emphasis on the first and rather not an emphasis on the second, which is not going to make it a hardcore content creator's niche game that they love from that side of things, but it will win over anyone casually perusing and being interested in board games in the first place, which overarchingly is what I prefer on this channel anyway, because you know how I feel about that. We're not going to get into that soapbox. Then, what else we got going on? From All Play is going to be one of the sleeper hits. It's going to be the Courtesans of 2025. The bane of this existence, though, and the reason it won't be on people's lists is because it's not going to appeal in the first place with the transparent card overlaying insert system that they've developed. Because holy frickin' cow, Batman, is that annoying to put together and take apart each game. It's clever, though. It's unique. The number shedding system with the overlaying cards and changing the combos that are available to you to go first out in a different way is actually freaking amazing. But the upkeep and the downkeep in terms of setup and teardown of this is just freaking annoying. I remember unpunching and sorting this and putting these in the sleeves, and I was just pissed off to begin with. And then taking it apart afterwards, I was pissed off as well. But in between, it was like an Oreo cookie sandwich in terms of, wow, that cream in the inside really is the sweet spot of the gameplay. And so I think it could make a few lists as well. Similarly, a game that pisses people off, but also will be of very interest if you have tastes like my own, is Spooktacular. Is it balanced? No. Are they asymmetric as hell? Yes. Has level 99 done something different and out of the park again? Yes, it has. It's not going to appeal to everyone, but I think it's clever, it's fun, it's Wiz Wars style, and the spooking of meeples on and off the board in order to activate your powers, even though you take the same sequential turns on a monster-based spooking aspect as you go around the table to chase them from room to room, steal other people's, captured souls, and use them for your own evil machinations, is really just a fun game. So say what you will. The other one is Tag Team. Tag Team, actually, from Scorpion Mosque, takes an auto build to the deck build style combination where you draft two heroes, combine their decks, and then get 3 cards and decide if you put it on top of the card that's already on your deck or below it, and then flip, rinse, and repeat to knock out your enemy. The biggest downside, though, is that you can stalemate pretty easily in this game, and that's kind of anticlimactic when it's a knock 'em out game. So I look at this and I fear it could be downgraded in the future for me from that side of things if you get too many of those stalemates, because you just want to do cool stuff, you want to blow people up, and you want to knock them the hell out. But if you're constantly doing the, it's a 0-0 soccer/football game score at the end of the regular periods, that sucks. That sucks. That is not a good payoff. And that's what I fear about this, but if some is good, more is better. And I guarantee, even maybe by the end of the year, Scorpion Mosque is going to tell us there's going to be more of this game. And so that will be cool because it kind of takes that deck building smash them together of 2 characters, of Smash Up, which sucks, as well as Soccer Arms, which is awesome but too complex, and it's one pre-game, not in-game like this, and just, well, does a good job with it. So the other one, 2 players, is A Wild Venture from Pika Games. And I meant to have a review out prior to this, but it's a very interesting combo twisting style of card game where, again, you're actually trying to deplete cards of the amount of use that you can, so that you actually then deplete them before you reach the end of a path, as you traverse a path with one of the main mechanisms that you have in addition to gaining money and tokens, so that when you reach the end of the path, you put them in your burned scoring discard pile that can't be used again, but that's how you score at the end of the game. So you have to use them to advance, but you also have to use them to get into the pile to set collect and to score. And it creates a very interesting dynamic, especially with a two-player vibe and all of the crazy asymmetry. I can't tell you if it's balanced or not, but everything does everything. And so you're constantly recreating new combos that you've never done or seen before, and choosing between your very, very, very large tableau at times of who, what, where, when, and how, as well as the multiple paths that are available to you to navigate in terms of bonuses along the way. Going back to Ivy Studios, though, Pillar of Fate, again, their two-player version of Scales of Fate, the replay, retheme, smaller based Veiled Fate, if you will, the card version of a battle line equivalent, it's actually better for me than Scales of Fate. I thought Scales of Fate was fine. You somehow did better with a card-driven 3-round asymmetric middle ground, as well as having one special card per round that has to be played either face up or face down, which will change its power and change the values, because not only do the values of the strength of the lane matter, but the values of the type of the card will determine what the scoring of each lane is as you go through these 3 rounds, subsequently scoring more as the rounds progress. I think it's better, I think it's smoother, and I think it's freaking awesome. Nature. I think it's a complete game from what I've heard. I've also heard that it's better with the modules, which raises the eternal conundrum. If you need expansions to make a game that much more excellent, how do you feel about that? And I feel very split on it, because part of me doesn't like that. Part of me was talking about Marvel United earlier in this video, which just reminds me that we forgot about Cthulhu Death May Die as the last cooperative game in the form of Season 2 that was, again, just delivered at the bare end bones of 2024 in early 2025, depending on what side of the ocean you were on. Fear of the unknown just gives us more, which again raises the question of Marvel United, but you heard that earlier. Similarly, though, of the more question in the form of, well, the 2 most popular fighting games that are out there currently, Dice Throne, with the Outcasts now delivering currently at the time of me filming this, and shortly after me filming this, or around this time, will also be the Unmatched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Will either of these crack the top 10 as the ones that you need to get if you're new? Probably not. If you're hardcore, perhaps, because I've heard Outcasts is much more complex than some of the previous heroes, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is freaking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so you know there's a nostalgia grab alongside of that, and that's going to get the IP favor, just like the previously mentioned Star Wars and Lord of the Rings games. But the other one that is, again, making waves and controversy, and this has to be the game for you type of thing, like a Root and Oath or a leader situation in general, and that's Old King's Crown. I love it. I played it before the crowdfunding campaign. I covered it for the crowdfunding campaign. Shut Up and Sit Down loves it. But you have to like the type of game that this is, as a meta, bluffing, asymmetric dynamic, play multiple times in order to get any depth or, creativity that's out there. This is not going to be a heads down, thumbs up your style of game where everybody wants to do their own thing. There's no mitigation, there's no interaction, and I have perfect information. This is a screw you type game. This is a screw you type game. And is that what you're looking for? And then last but not least, the Res Arcana of the New Age, or so it's being described, as a more interactive, more options Res Arcana in the form of Etherstone from Thunderglyph Games. As a draft your cards, get your leader, and create your combos, not only to do an Ascension style, take out enemies in the middle, but also create combos in order to score the most points at the end of the game. And people are comparing to that for good reason, and that's a good pedigree, although I've seen split opinion on whether they like the original comparison in form of Res Arcana more or this one. But it's unavailable right now pretty much at the time of me filming this, so will availability affect backers or creators' opinions on this, if you just can't have it? because otherwise I would have 3 non-2025 games that I didn't have a chance to play in 2025 on this list as well, including Bombbusters, previously mentioned Yokai Pagoda, as well as Conic, the Knizia game. So those would be on this list if I included non-2025 ones. But that is all of the ones right now that I think are going to be on people's lists, at least that I think, that I'm predicting. As always, I'm always wrong, but peace out. What games did I miss? What games would you put on your top 10 right now? And do you think that's going to change, or you're going to have some other ones that are going to deliver on the crowdfunding or retail side of things even between now and then in the next 2 months? As always, we always play games up until the end of 2025 to count them. We don't stop counting them just because you decide to put out your top 10 list on November 3 or December 1. No, and you know it's going to happen. I guarantee it. Stay classy. Peace out, guys. Thanks for watching.